Welcome, everyone, to the Red Raider Report. And before we get started talking about Texas Tech and the Kansas State Wildcats, we want to mention why, guys, we're all wearing pink today. It's part of the Avalanche-Journal's paper-wide initiative to raise breast cancer awareness. And actually, if you get Wednesday's Avalanche-Journal, you'll see this printed all on pink paper. And, you know, throughout the month, we're going to have some special features, some touching stories, and some different things to really raise awareness of a disease that's taken away a lot of people close to us and affected a lot of people out there. So please, pick up Wednesday's Avalanche-Journal and kind of see a little bit about what our Pinktober is about. And, guys, I'm pretty happy to wear pink today. It's for a pretty good cause, don't you think?
That's correct. And we hope that we don't jinx the Red Raiders, too, because for the newcomers here, of course, Tech, sarcastically, when they have had bad games in years past, has been known as the Pink Faders. I don't think that's going to happen this particular weekend. I believe they'll actually go on the road and beat Kansas State to go to 5-0 to start it off this year.
I'm going to go ahead and jump out on a limb and disagree with you, Don. I think this will be a weekend where the Red Raiders are referred to as the Pink Faders. They haven't played in 2 weeks. We'll see how they react to that. It's been a long time since Texas Tech has had a bye week. I believe the 2004 season. Mm-hmm. So it'll be interesting to see how Texas Tech reacts to go on the road. Very tough environment in Manhattan, Kansas. Kansas State hasn't played very well lately, but to me this seems like a ripe situation for Kansas State to play one of its best games and for Texas Tech to possibly come out flat on the road.
You know, and you make a good point, and it's sort of interesting to realize, I was talking the other day to Stephen Hamby, who's a senior on this football team, and said, I've never had an open date. I don't know exactly what to do on a Saturday during football season because I've been playing football on a Saturday during football season the whole time I've been here. And players, by and large last week expressed the thought that they didn't particularly want the open date. They kind of felt like they had a good thing going, and they would have actually, most of them, I think, would have preferred to play last Saturday. And so it will be interesting to see if they can start off with a good high tempo or if they're a little bit sluggish coming out of the gate there at Bill Snyder Family Stadium.
Right, guys. In Kansas State, they're 3-1 on the season. They're coming off a surprising 45-37 win over Louisiana Lafayette. And, Adam, you talk about Josh Freeman, one of the better quarterbacks in the country, especially in passing efficiency. He's done a nice job for the Wildcats this season.
He has. I believe he ranks 8th in passing efficiency. He also thrown for over 1,000 yards already, 11 touchdowns, only 2 interceptions. He also leads the team with 6 rushing touchdowns. So he's really been their main offensive weapon. But he's not the only guy right now that's putting up big numbers for Kansas State. You look at Brandon Banks, junior wide receiver, a junior college transfer. He's got better numbers than Mike Crabtree right now. They both have 6 touchdowns. He's got over 400 yards, and I believe he's ahead of Crabtree in receiving yards per game as well.
And this guy's kind of tiny, too, hard to find. I guess for folks who haven't seen Kansas State play yet, if you want to draw a comparison to a player out of Texas Tech's past, it's almost like a Tyrone Thurman or Wayne Walker type of guy, or maybe a Gerald McNeil out of Baylor. Listed at 5'7" and 142 pounds, but real quick and real speedy. And in visiting with Ruffin McNeil, Tech's defensive coordinator this week, said that Brandon Banks is a guy who lines up in the slot, and so it's not cornerbacks a lot of times who will be covering him. It'll be safeties, and you also want to avoid having outside linebackers isolated on him.
Right, that can really create a mismatch. And I was able to talk to Brandon Banks earlier today. It was interesting, first year as a Division I player. He's very familiar with Mike Crabtree, so he was looking forward to the challenge of kind of going, mano-a-mano with him, even though they won't be covering each other on the field. But you say he looked up to Mike Crabtree, said he hoped to one day maybe work out with him, maybe share some ideas. So it'll be interesting. He'll be pretty motivated. He's had a couple really good games. 2 games in a row, he's had over 100 yards receiving. I think he's had a receiving touchdown in every single game this year. Yeah. It'll be interesting to see what he can do against Texas Tech.
It's a good thing because you got to admit that Kansas State running game this year has been a disaster, non-existent until last Saturday, and then they finally actually get somebody who gives them a little bit of life in that part of the offense.
And Adam, you talk about that and kind of a surprise in where they got that offensive production from at the running back spot.
That's right. Lamarck Brown, who actually was part of the receiving corps until last week. Ron Prince said he had approached Brown about this in the offseason, thought that maybe they could use him as a running back. I think he told him last week on Tuesday that he was going to play running back on Saturday against Louisiana Lafayette. So he goes out there, 137 yards, scores a touchdown. He's already Kansas State's leading rusher for the season, and he just played one game there. So the Wildcats feel like they've solidified that running back position with moving this guy over. He was a rush for over, I think, 1,200 yards with 20-something touchdowns as a junior in high school. So he's familiar with the running back position. Not to mention, they put him in the backfield. He has a career-high 5 receptions out of the backfield. So this is a guy that can beat you on the ground and in the air.
Right, and Don, I think for me the key offensively for Kansas State is Josh Freeman, and the key for Texas Tech defensively is getting pressure on Josh Freeman, because I think we saw in the Louisville loss earlier this year, he doesn't respond well when you pressure him.
Well, that, and the other thing is, if Tech has had an Achilles heel this year, it's been a little bit surprising because the secondary has given up a lot of yards passing, and I don't think that they were counting on that coming into the season, even though they did lose 2 starters. Still, though, they have quite a few people back who have, they're playing with guys who have some experience. Right. When you're talking about it, even new starters, Brent Nickerson, Daniel Charbonnet. So I think it'll be important for Tech. If Tech can get pressure on Josh Freeman, and he does throw some passes up there that are kind of dangerous, then obviously one of the things that Tech has done well so far is pick off passes, still tied for the national lead with 10 interceptions.
Right, and Adam, you talked defensively for Kansas State. The last 2 weeks, really, the gig has kind of been up on the Wildcats. 638 yards surrendered on the ground. They are not stopping anybody running the football right now.
No, they're not. It's good for them that they're facing Texas Tech this week. I don't think Kansas State has faced a team that predominantly throws the ball, but Texas Tech has a good running game. Will they come out and give them a hefty dose of Baron Batch and Shannon Woods, or will they stick to their philosophy and throw the ball? I think it would serve Texas Tech awfully well to try to run the ball as much as possible. Will they do that? We'll see.
That's one of the reasons why I think Tech will go to Kansas State and win. This week, Brandon Carter, one of Tech's offensive linemen, said that K-State runs, in a lot of instances, a 3-3 stack defense where they only have, say, 6 guys in the box. They run a 3-man front most of the time. Even if they're not in a 3-3, they're in a 3-4. And that's one of the fronts that Tech is. That's one of the reasons why Batch and Woods have been so successful so far, is because they have faced some teams that have not put a lot of people in the box, and that's when Graham Harrell has checked to it, and they've really taken advantage of it. And I think K-State, even though they have better athletes than some of the teams that Tech has seen so far, I think defensively their scheme could very well lead to Tech calling Batch and Woods' number a whole bunch again this Saturday.
And Adam, you talk about Kansas State's defense. They're going to have a little bit harder time. They had some off-the-field problems this week.
Yes, they did. Gary Chandler, who's the Big 12 Defensive Newcomer of the Year last year, was arrested over the weekend for driving with a revoked license. He's since been suspended from the Kansas State team indefinitely. It'll obviously hurt their depth a little bit, but one thing to note here, even though Chandler was Newcomer of the Year in the Big 12, he also is listed second on the depth chart behind Courtney Herndon, who already has an interception, fumble recovery. He's one of the leading tacklers right now. So that'll be interesting. They may not miss him a whole lot. They probably will a little bit. But I think the defensive backs they've got starting right now have done pretty well for them.
Right. And Don, you talk about Ron Prince, the head coach of the Wildcats. Each game this year probably becomes a little bit more key for him. Even though he did get a contract extension, their patience seems to be getting a little bit thin in Manhattan at times. Well,
and that's because if you're a coach at Kansas State, I think this was a job that Ron Prince, it was great for him to take because he's only 36 years old, I believe, at the time he got the job. But there's a real big specter when you're the guy who follows Bill Snyder, who is, obviously the most successful coach in the history of Kansas State's program. And so they do very much want to, and I think need to get off to a good start.
Right, and guys, that game is a 2:30 kickoff on ABC from Manhattan, Kansas. And check back with us after the game Saturday. We'll give you a little web update and tell you how that game went. And we're going to be right back. We're going to look at Week 1 of Big 12 Conference play here on the Red Raider Report.